And we are inflicting colossal losses on the enemy and gradually pushing them out of Burkina Faso. We will win this battle, this war, and we will overcome imperialism, which has activated terrorism in our region, to bring us back to these colonial times, to keep us under their control, to exploit us until the end of time. Africa is waking up, and no one will be able to close the eyes of Africans on our realities. No one will be able to come and divide us, to impose what they want on us. We have done everything to be here today to speak to you, but also to come and wish President John Mahama a good change. We wish him a good change because there are many challenges await him. And I hope that you can accompany your brothers here. Pan-Africanism is a rather complex battle, but you, the people, it is quite easy for you to lead this Pan-Africanism well, because the people must love each other, the people must support each other. The problem of Pan-Africanism is very often between us, the leaders, but we will put everything in place so that the leaders can go in the direction of their people, because the people are already integrated. They are Pan-African. If today Ghana decided to bring President John Mahama to the head of the country, it is a strong message. And I wish that you, Burkinabe living in Ghana, you can accompany President John Mahama. The task will be difficult. There will certainly be challenges on the security level, on the economic level. I wish that you can accompany the forces of defense and security in Ghana much as you can, both on the intelligence level and on the economic level, as much as you can. Support them as if you were supporting the Burkinabe armed forces. I am telling you something. The challenges can be very numerous. In no case should you lose hope. You must accompany them and help them on all levels. A nation does not survive as long as it does not.
They should not allow another person to give them a prescription of how Africa should look like or what we need in our Africa, because we know what we need in our Africa.
Comrades, we must never succumb to pressure of America. America has never helped us with anything, even during apartheid. They cannot threaten us now.
Think of the brains that are in the diaspora. Think of the monies in the diaspora. If we can just repatriate those brains, repatriate those monies in an organized way, we don't need anybody. We are actually the only continent on earth that doesn't need the world. The world is Africa. Everybody knows it. There's not a single strategic planning session by any country around the world outside Africa that doesn't start with Africa. Because
hello brothers and sisters, I really hope you're all doing fine from wherever you're watching me from. Now, the unity of the black community is the biggest threat the Western countries have right now. They are threatened by the unity of black folks in the diaspora and in Africa. They do not want to see a united Africa. They do not want to see a united black community, because that means they will have no power over us. That means it will be the end of exploitation and the end of the control of the motherland. So let's watch this video, then have a real quick discussion at the end of it. Thank you so much.
The kind of mineral resources we have in our country is enough to take care of everybody in that country. We should not have a single poor person in Sierra Leone. But unfortunately, we are not given the free will to make decisions on our own mineral resources. There's always Big Brother who decides. And when you fight and say, no, we are not going to do this, they use the system to stop you. It's either they set you up with the opposition and they'll be supporting the opposition against you from the back, or they cause unnecessary chaos in your country so that you are not able to even govern your own people. They will do things to make you not to be functionable. And of course, any country that don't have peace cannot develop. You have to have peace before you talk about development. I'll give you a simple example about Sierra Leone. Every mining company that is in Sierra Leone today is owned by a foreigner. Every mining company. If it's not the Chinese, it's the American, it's the British. Our electricity, Bumuda, is run by the British, and we still don't have light. We're looking for light, electricity. If you don't have electricity, how can you talk about education? How can you talk about health facility? How can you talk about improving the infrastructure of your country? We don't have electricity. Now, do we actually even have proper water, pipe-borne water, so that our kids will not be sick? We don't have those facilities. Why? With all the minerals we have, there is a cap you put. Before my husband became the president of Sierra Leone was benefiting, they said, what's the word? 0.000.1%. What is that? Basically, a company can take as much as $100 million out of the country in terms of minerals, and then they can just give the country $10,000. Now, what will $10,000 do for our health system? What is $10,000 do for our educational system? And these are the things I believe that are stopping Africa from progressing. We don't have a say. The sense about us celebrating independence, I don't know why we celebrate independence, because we are not free. That is my own take. I'm not speaking also on behalf of the government of Sierra Leone, nor am I speaking on behalf of His Excellency the President. I am speaking as Fatima, as a citizen of a country who believes that things need to change.
I join you in that sense. I'm Jesse, I'm a person, Fatima is a person, we agree, I see you. I value your perspective and I want to find a way forward. Right? Neither of us likes the status quo.
No.
We see women and girls being oppressed. We see patriarchy stronger than ever. And we see colonial forces that persist without accountability. So it's one part to elucidate the problems that come from that. The many sequelae of extraction include inadequate remaining resources to develop as a state, to do all the things that people want to do for themselves. Provide education, provide health care. So I wonder, as we think just as two citizens of the world committed to a better humanity, where do we go from here? Do you have any practical ideas about where we might start? Or collective ideas that we might gain support for? I
feel Africa, patriotism is very important. You have to love your country to want your country to be a better place. Patriotism, I think we have to have that sense of patriotism in our countries, and our leaders also should be subjected to that. You know, it is not only when you were talking about election and then everybody come out and celebrate, and after election, that's it. Accountability. Who accounts for what is happening? Who is the one who is changing the narrative of what is happening? Like I said, as a First Lady, I am not part of a government system. I am a wife of a president. So when I speak on behalf of the people, because I understand what the people are going through. At the end of the day, I'm not being paid salary, and I cannot be fired either. So that's the advantage. That's the advantage of being a First Lady. But I believe that for Africa, what is happening in Africa today, it needs to change, and it needs to change now. There is no time like now, because for Sierra Leone, we now have a president who believes that we cannot wait for other people to come and develop us. We cannot wait for another country to come and prescribe how our country should be run or what we need in our country. you know, this divide and rule. If you're close to China, we will not come to your country. If you're close to America, we will not come to your country. I mean, the fight that is between England, Europe, America, China, Russia is not a Sierra Leone fight. That's not our problem. We're fighting for our daily bread. We're looking to have education, just like America. We're looking to have good health facility, just like Europe. We're looking to have governance structure where one single person cannot be the dictator of a nation. That's what we're looking for. And in that process, we're going to be allies to everybody who wants us to grow. But if we now align ourselves with someone, and then this other person now feel offended that, oh, you know, I'm coming from China now. I flew in, I mean, I've gone around the world to get to Boston, you know. I went to China and then come here. Before here, I went to England and then flew into America. For me, I'm not restricted where I should go or who I should be talking to. I am going around the world to see a country that sees Africa not as not just as an ally of what you'll be getting from us, but a country that sees Sierra Leone as partners and treat us with respect. You cannot be coming to our country and take everything that will make us develop, and then you still treat us as inferior people, as if we don't know what we're doing. I think that is wrong. You know, we're looking for partners that value us. People that will come to our country and say, you know what, this country has suffered enough, they need to grow. We were once the atom of Africa. Every country within sub-Saharan Africa used to come to Sierra Leone for our education. And today, what can we be proud of? We cannot talk about education in Sierra Leone because they've ruined that for us. Everything that has empowered Sierra Leone has been ruined. And now we have a leader who wants to fix everything. There is a problem. In Africa, you should not have a leader that is assertive, a leader that knows what his people want, a leader that wants to change what is happening. The moment you have that, it's everyone's target. And then they find reason to slow you down, they find reason to stop you, and they use that system of corruption. They use corrupt people, they use negative people, they use unpatriotic citizens to come after a government who is doing what is right for a system. I think we need to address those issues. Unfortunately, I don't know I'm very good at name calling, but at the moment, I don't know who I should be screaming at.
I think.
Alright, the gold bars in the video are the first since the country assumed control of their gold mines. Check out this clip and let us come back and discuss.
Oh, this brother right here is looking more and more handsome by the day. Okay. Shout out to Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore. These are the results of their first gold production. This is their first few hundred kilograms of gold that they have produced since Ibrahim Traore came into power and took over his mining sectors and started controlling his resources, and has kicked several European mining companies out of the country that have not been benefiting the country. He is truly leading by example and is a rebirth of Thomas Sankara, who was all about utilizing the wealth of the land to benefit the people and the economy, and not, accepting imperialists into the country to exploit the resources. So since Ibrahim Traore, being the youngest president in Africa at the age of 36, has invested in several key sectors like mining, like agriculture, like real estate. We're gonna see some major projects coming from him. And they have been really trying to take this brother out. He has over 20 assassination attempts. May the ancestors continue to protect him, because he's truly a force to be reckoned with. I mean, if other African leaders took note and adopted this type of leadership, Africa would be a force to be reckoned with. Okay, so much love to Burkina Faso.
This is what a wise non-tribalistic leader does. care for his country, and build wealth for the people of his country. And as much as I'm happy for Ibrahim Traore for showing other African leaders that this can be done and be perfectly executed without the colonizers' influence, I'm fearful that this young leader's determination to liberate his people will make him a target to imperialistic sociopaths that will aim to isolate him from the rest of the continent. But mostly, I'm fearful that leaders like Ibrahim Traore are a threat to the Western elites and their agendas. Hence, they will feel the need to eliminate him. This young man got rid of their oppressors, took control of his country's natural reserves that were exploited by France, by the way, rejected IMF money. He's busy forming a coalition with neighboring countries in Africa to create their own power bloc that is outside of Western influence. That in itself is a threat to the Western interests. Ibrahim Traore will essentially be the one to liberate Africa from the grip of oppression. And trust me, an independent Africa is a threat to the world's first-class economies. In the past, leaders like Traore were eliminated, and I feel like this is where my fear stems from. I am happy that he's making big strides. I am happy that he has countries like China backing him up and obviously funding his economy where they can. And I'm happy that he has Russia by his side. He has Russian influence by his side. And that dynamic trio, yes, that trio in itself is, it's a powerful influence that will be good for the economy of Africa. But I'm just fearful of this imperialistic sociopaths that will aim to isolate Ibrahim Traore. I am, no. At this point, Africa is being pulled by the horns. Africa is being pulled in different directions. And this reminds me of the Berlin conference. I mean, in the DRC conflict that is happening right now with the whole Rwanda situation, the United States is knee deep in that country. It's knee deep in exploiting the natural resources of that country. Right now in South Africa, the AfriForum is busy lying on international stages that they are being oppressed. And now the American government is stepping in to save them by doing what? By dividing the democratic institutions of this country. So we are being pulled by the horns. Everybody is fighting where they can. And then we have Ibrahim Traore with the Chinese and Russian influence trying to liberate his people and essentially capture the economy of Africa and liberate it and develop it for its own good. And the African leaders, seeing what the young Ibrahim Traore is doing, they're obviously not going to be pleased with this because they felt like they were going to be the first to liberate Africa, but instead they fell into the clutches of being puppets to the West. So we are being put, right now, Africa is a race. Right now, all the elite first-class economies are literally pulling Africa apart for their own benefits. And Ibrahim Traore is like, no, not with me. And I'm scared that this will make him a target to these sociopaths.
Arikana Chihombori, a prominent African physician and activist, has made a powerful statement that echoes the growing sentiment among many of us, which is Africa doesn't need the world, but the world needs Africa. Now, for me, hearing these words resonates deeply. I mean, I'm not just talking about Africa's vast natural resources, though we know they are abundant. But what Dr. Chihombori is speaking to is far more valuable. And she's speaking to the brains and the money that our people have scattered across the globe. Now, in an interview, Dr. Chihombori had this to say.
I just want to bring the children of Africa home because we understand the diaspora are Africa's true gold. Think of the brains that are in the diaspora. Think of the monies in the diaspora. If we can just repatriate those brains, repatriate those monies in an organized way, we don't need anybody. We are actually the only continent on earth that doesn't need the world. The world is Africa. Everybody knows it. There's not a single strategic planning session by any country around the world outside Africa that doesn't start with Africa. Because everything they need can and is being found in Africa. So we have what it takes, and they know it. You know, they're very jealous of us, actually very envious of what we have as a people. So not only have they gone after our natural resources, now they're going after our human resources. You see, they've gone for so many decades of reduced reproductive process. Now, the age gaps in their nations, huge. They're now looking for people to take care of them when they age.
Now, I do have to say, right, it's about time that we hear this kind of talk. The African diaspora communities are full of some of the sharpest and most innovative minds. And take a look at the contributions of Africans abroad in places like the US and the UK and Europe. I mean, we've contributed to every field imaginable, yet the full potential of these minds has never been harnessed in a way that could truly benefit the continent. I mean, imagine what could happen if we organized our intellectual resources, if we brought those minds back to Africa, or better yet, we were able to create systems here that could foster and encourage innovation on our very soil. I mean, we could create solutions tailored to our unique needs using our people's skills. But I believe that it's not just about brains, it's also about the money. I mean, we all know that the African diaspora has accumulated wealth, and yet much of that wealth circulates outside Africa without being invested back into the continent. I mean, we've got wealthy Africans in the diaspora, whether through tech, banking, or entertainment, who are not currently looking to reinvest in Africa. I mean, imagine if we had structured systems to actually encourage them to do so. We are rich in resources, both human and material. And if we can organize ourselves, if we can unite across the diaspora and the continent, I believe that Africa actually has the potential to become the global powerhouse it's always been meant to be. And I know what you're thinking, right? That we have our challenges, which are political instability, corruption, underdevelopment. And yes, right, you're right, we do. But Dr. Chihombori's message isn't one of blind optimism. I believe that it's a challenge, which is one that says we've got what it takes to overcome these challenges. And if we just start thinking and acting differently, that we can achieve those things. And it's about taking control of our own destiny and making use of the resources and the strengths we have and creating systems that empower us to rise above the obstacles. I mean, Africa's time is now. I believe that it's time to rejuvenate our minds, our resources, our wealth. We've waited long enough for the world to validate.
Tell me, why is it that we are here in Ghana? There is a military base here that American soldiers can walk in. No passport, no ID. They walk right through. If they commit crimes, they rape women, they kill women. No policeman in Ghana can touch them. Why? Where is the Ghanaian military base in the United States? Where is the French military base? Where is the Burkina Faso military base in France? Where is the Nigerian military base in Russia? Every superpower is building bases throughout Africa. Where are the African military bases in those countries? As I say some of these things, it's almost like it's a joke. So we need more Traores in Africa. Nigeria said when the US government increased their visa to $250 to get a visa to go to the United States, Nigeria said, no worries, you also have to pay $250 if your people want a visa. But turn around and go to Namibia, I was shocked. Namibians pay about $170 to get a visa to go to the United States, but Americans, when they go to Namibia, nothing, zero, not a penny. Just come. Now guys, let's have a serious conversation here. Who is stupid? Whose problem is it? We are the problem. What is leadership doing? Leadership is doing nothing. Leadership is voting on sheer stupidity. Stupidity that is causing us havoc. The same people who are abusing us, taking advantage of us, exploiting us, they are laughing at us because we are jokers. What are we doing in our parliaments? And that is why you see what's happening in Burkina Faso, what's happening in Niger, what's happening in Mali. The youth are saying, now we know. Now our eyes are open. Now we know who the real problem is. Yes, we know the enemy as the former colonizers. We know the enemy as the multinationals who are in our countries, siphoning as much as they can. Yes, we know the NGOs are nothing but wolf in sheep's clothing. Yes, we know some of the embassies are no good. They are there to make sure that the instability in our countries continue. We know all that. However, we also know that our leaders could stop it. So yes, it is that the youth are rising. The youth are saying, you leaders, if you do not do the right thing, we will replace you. So we need more Traores in Africa. What's happening in Burkina Faso must be supported. What's happening in Niger must be supported. What's happening in Mali must be supported. The youth of Africa are sick and tired of being sick and tired. The issues of the root must be addressed. World Bank must stop giving us frivolous loans. World Bank must treat Africa fairly. Ours is a simple ask. We are simply saying to the world, we demand Africa that can be treated fairly, an Africa that can be treated as equals on the world stage, an Africa that is free of racism, bigotry, and hate. Our ask is a simple one. Our position is of stating the facts, stating the truth, constants that do not change. We're simply asking that the world does unto us what they would want done unto them. Anybody that has an issue that Africa has taken is somebody who is under earth. We want a peaceful world. We want a world that is just. And that is all we're asking. That is all our children are asking. Our children are saying we're tired of watching our uranium power 2/3 of France, while they call us a dark continent. Our children are saying we're sick and tired of seeing our mineral wealth fund Western education, while we don't have quality education in Africa. Our children are saying we're sick and tired of seeing our natural resources fund healthcare in the Western world, while we don't have access to that Western world. So it is the revolution that has been proclaimed, the revolution the likes of Kwame Nkrumah and others had hoped for. While it may have taken us years to get where we are, the unfinished business that our Pan-African fathers started back in 1963 must be completed, and our youth in Africa are acutely aware of that. The leadership that is not awakening, the leadership that doesn't understand that imperialism no longer has room in Africa, neocolonialism no longer has room in Africa, colonization no longer has room in Africa, exploitation of Africa can no longer continue. A leader who doesn't understand that is a leader whose days are numbered. The African youth are not taking it anymore. The African youth are awakened, their eyes are open, and they're saying, you either stand up and defend what belongs to us, or we will replace you, plain and simple. The unfinished business that our Pan-African fathers, the unfinished business that Kwame Nkrumah and many others started, it must be completed, it must be finished. You and I, we have a responsibility. You make us accountable as your elders. Make your leadership accountable. If your leadership is not accountable, replace them. I thank you. As I was getting ready for today's lecture, I came across a quotation from the man we are honoring today, His Excellency Kwame Nkrumah. He said, a state
and the grip of neo-colonialism is not master of its own destiny. It is this factor which makes neo-colonialism such a serious threat to world peace. Following him, there was Marcus Garvey prior to him. He said, a people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Jomo Kenyatta also reminded us that when the missionaries arrived in Africa, the Africans had the land and the missionaries had the Bible. They taught us how to pray with our eyes closed. When we opened our eyes, they had the land and we had the Bible. Finally, Patrice Lumumba said, the day will come when history will speak. Africa will write its own history. It will be a history of glory and dignity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment. It was 3:10 a.m. as I was fast asleep in my bed in Tennessee when my phone rang. On the other end, there was a woman by the name of Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. She was the then chairman of the African Union. She proceeded to inform me that the then ambassador to the United States, the African Union ambassador to the United States, had just turned in her resignation and that she was going to be running for president of her country. A wonderful thing indeed. What was surprising, however, was that she wanted me to be the next African Union ambassador to the United States. Keep in mind, I am 1,000% scientist with zero experience or knowledge of diplomacy or even politics. I left Zimbabwe as a teenager to go to the university in the United States, had a degree in general chemistry, a master's in organic chemistry, went on straight to medical school, did a residency in general surgery and another one in family medicine, and went on straight to practice medicine for 25 years. Nothing to do with diplomacy in any way, shape, or form. So to my surprise, I said, Madam Chair, why on earth would you want somebody like myself to go to Washington, D.C. and be an ambassador? She said, well, look at me. I'm a pediatrician. I said, but you went to South Africa. You took positions that took you through the ranks of where you are now. I have no experience and you just want to throw me into the wolves. She said, no, we're tired of getting our rear ends kicked and we need somebody who understands the Americans. I said, I do understand the Americans. You think so? She said, yes, you do. It took me 6 months of back and forth with her until finally I said, you know what? The joke is on you. I'm going to go to Washington. I'm going to have fun. I had not taken sabbatical since coming to the United States. I'm going to drink tea and be wined and dined. And after 6 months, I'm going to look at her and say, Madam, I tried, but I couldn't do it. So that was the plan. I actually did not look for an apartment. I stayed in a hotel for 5 months. I would go into the meetings and I would sit and I would be laughing at myself.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Now, I've always been talking about the unity of the Black community, the unity of the people of Africa and those in the diaspora. There is need for us to start discussing these issues. We do not expect anyone from the other side of the world to start speaking for us. They might want to do so, but the only people who are going to save themselves, it is us. We are going to save ourselves from whatever is happening. And if we are not going to be keen, this is going to get messy. This is why we have seen the uprising leaders in Africa who have the vision of Africa and the diaspora. People like Dr. Arikana, Ibrahim Traore. They want black folks to unite, and they want to bring the black community together. I know it started long ago when people like Martin Luther King tried, and they had the influence to bring black folks together. But what happened to Martin Luther King? They did cut his life short before he even went ahead to finish whatever he had started. So I do say that until we realize that the systems have been against us, until we start and end the illusions that we have that someone else will come and save us, that's the time we will be out of the colonial mentality. I see a lot of people still living in the illusions that someone else will save us, that the Western is trying to better Africa. Who told you so? Now look at Congo. The crisis in Congo right now, it is being sponsored by the Western powers because they know the unity of the people of Congo will mean the end of exploitation. The unity of the people in Africa will mean the end of the exploitation in Africa. So they will keep on dividing Africa. That's why you have so many bodies in Africa. You have the SADC, you have the ECOWAS, you have the EAC, the East African Community. Then you have the Western side and all this other side. They have tried to divide Africa. They started by dividing Africa into countries, right? Creating imaginary borders in Africa and making sure that restrictions were put for someone coming from Burkina Faso going to Ghana, someone coming from Ghana to Nigeria, and all these other countries. These countries were one during when Africa was still not divided. The whole of Africa was one, was a big landmass with people who were united, the people who were talking to each other, and the people who were living in peace and harmony until the British, until the Germans, until all these other, the Spanish and the French came to Africa, the Belgians. Now, what did they do? They went in the Berlin conference. They divided Africa into portions. They continue dividing Africa to date. They divided Africa into 50 nations. No, it was actually 45. Then they have been adding African countries time to time, until we have 55 countries in Africa right now. But the question is this, was this the dream of our ancestors? Was this the dream of the pioneers of Pan-Africanism in Africa? Was this the dream of every black folk? Now, this was not us. This is them. The life we are living today is not our life. It is their life. And we have not yet gotten over from it. We still live their life. Now, come to Africa. They divided into countries, later on into regions. Later on, they gave us blocks, the ECOWAS and all this. Then they later on added us to an organization called the Commonwealth, where we must go there and be told whatever we should do in Africa. And if we want ourselves free, if we want ourselves united, we first must scrap ECOWAS. We must scrap the SADC. We must scrap the EAC. All these were meant to bring more division in Africa. That if you accept yourself as you come from Kenya and Tanzania and all these other countries, then you are being divided again. Division after division. Then what have we seen? That this organization, the SADC and the ECOWAS and the EAC of this African continent, do not even talk or associate with each other. What African unity are you building when you don't talk to each other? What African unity are you talking about if we have 54 currencies in Africa right now? And if you need to travel around Africa, you need to have 55 currencies. Now, I've been talking this, and there is need for us to continue talking about it. Now, if you go to Europe, you only need a single visa to go to almost 10 countries. But when you come to Africa, you need 55 visas to go around 55 countries in Africa. That even the nearest country to each other, you still need a visa to enter that country. What sort of unity have we been talking about? This is why Ibrahim Traore is saying that we must unite ourselves. And I really checked the countries that are in the AES are actually scrapping visas and all that you can walk and trade freely around the AES countries. This is whatever Africa needs. This is whatever we need. We do not need an African continent where people are divided. We have 55 countries, 55 head of states, and all this other stuff. And even the African Union is a puppet of the Western countries in Africa, that it has never helped or solved any crisis in Africa. You go and look at whatever is happening in Congo. You come and look at whatever has been happening over years when Rwandese and Burundians were fighting. And when countries have been fighting in Africa after being sponsored, all these wars have been sponsored with a target. They do have a target for every war. Now, they cause mayhem. They pretend they're the ones who are solving it, and they pretend they're the ones, the lords of peace and all that stuff. But we say and repeat, enough is enough of that. We want a free Africa. Yes, the Western countries can still come to Africa, but as visitors, as tourists, and as business partners, not as our lords or as those people who we should be worshiping and all that stuff. No, they should, when coming to Africa, they should come and accord Africans with the due respect they need and that they deserve. We've seen a lot of videos in Africa where even the Chinese have started disrespecting Africans. They even slap workers that are the government offer them to work with. They even harass, and I even saw there is a nightclub in an African country where the black folks are strippers, and they do that in front of the Chinese and all that stuff. This is so messy in Africa right now. We need to unite this continent. We need to unite their diaspora to come back home, and we need to speak the truth, and we need actually to enlighten and bring the civic education to our people. If we are not going to do that, it's as same as nothing, because the majority of the people in Africa do not know the truth. They know the Western countries as the mothers of civilization in Africa and those that brought light to Africa. And we are saying that's not it. Civilizations started taking place in Africa before the white man did know that there is something called fire, that there is something called cooked meat, and all that other stuff. So we say African continent must be respected, black folks must be respected, and we, the black community, should unite ourselves. If we are not going to do that, it's the same as nothing. When we talk without action, is the same as nothing. You should be passing these messages to your cousins, to your brothers, and to your friends. This is whatever is going to unite us, and this is whatever is going to make this African continent great. Thank you so much for having taken the time to watch this video. I appreciate so much. If it's your first time, consider subscribing. See you in my next episode.